Welcome to my documentary about stereotypes in video games. Today, the question I'm going to be talking about is, are minorities being negatively stereotyped in video games? Ethnicity is very important in video games. Whatever race you are, it plays a huge role in the actual game in terms of and also how players and the community view these outside of video games and in the real world. The video game community is heavily flooded with Caucasian leads, although that is changing as time goes on. Compared to 20 years ago, there's been a change, but there are not enough video game characters that belong to minorities in terms of ethnicity, sexuality, or gender that are in key roles outside of stereotypes. These stereotypes are often negative and do not represent the community. These stereotypes are often negative and do not represent the community the characters belong to correctly. For example, most African American characters are portrayed as athletic characters or criminals, and it is rare to find a majority of African American video game characters in games that aren't sport games. Please, name me some. 4. Minorities are often on the antagonistic side of video games, normally being the enemies. For example, a lot of warlike first-person shooters often have a typical Muslim enemy with turbans, beards, and AK-47s. This is largely due to these types of games being made by Western developers that are pushing views and propaganda inside of games. Video game portrayals do have an effect on society and how certain groups are portrayed. Another example of negative stereotype is Native Americans. Native Americans are usually portrayed in video games with tomahawks and some type of spiritual weapon or form of attack. Native Americans are usually portrayed in video games with tomahawks and some type of spiritual weapon or form of attack. They also are seen wearing Native Americans are usually portrayed in video games with tomahawks and some type of spiritual weapon or form of attack. They are also seen wearing animal fur, and they're quite large. This doesn't sound bad on paper, but this stereotype usually has an influence as to what other people think Native Americans are actually like. Not all Native Americans wield tomahawks. Even with Latino/Latina characters being included in some games, they still have not overcome enough in-depth character development to represent it in a non-stereotypical way. According to Latinos and Narrative Media, a book written by Frederick Louis Aldomar, he says, despite the increase of Latino presence, there's still much more to be done in order to bring more Latino voices in games. Aldama is basically acknowledging the fact that there are Latino/Latina characters that are in games now, but the portrayal of them doesn't count. For example, in the Killzone series, there's a character called Rico Velasquez. Killzone does a great job in first-person shooter excitement and detailed storytelling, but it seems they are even better at offending minority groups. Rico could easily come off as a black man, but his name is Hispanic. He's the most ignorant and foul-mouthed character in the Killzone universe. Pairing as a nuisance to authority, Velasquez is far dumber than random troops that run into the background battlefield. This is a really offensive stereotype example, and Killzone has received a lot of backlash for this. Against! Mario is a prime example of a stereotype that is typical but not negative. Mario is stereotyped as a typical Italian, but in a positive way. When you think of Mario, you don't usually think Italy or Italian. You usually think of a fat plumber with a red hat and a moustache. Anyone that does think Italy when they think of Mario are not usually offended. Also, as more minorities are stepping into the world of game development, it's clear to see that they are as more minorities are stepping into the world of games development, it is clear to see that there are a vast... as more minorities are stepping into the world of games development, it is clear to see that there are better portrayals. As more minorities are stepping into the world of games development, It is clear to see that there are better portrayals of minorities being shown in video games, especially in the recent years. But is it enough?